What's up, everybody? Welcome. Guy Haberman here. We're brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka. The dog is off the leash. Let's talk about it. We begin with Brock Purdy appearing on the Rich Eisen show this week.
How do you respond to those who say you're just a product of the system there, the coach, and the guys around you, and all you're doing is basically rolling the balls out and not making mistakes? How do you respond to that, Brock?
Oh man, I would just say, you know, I don't really care in a sense. I just want to win. I want to help this team win. People can say what they want. That's cool. I just want to help this team win and reach our goals, and then we'll see at the end of all this if that's true or not. So,
yeah, you know what? I'm a little disappointed. I'm disappointed that Brock didn't say a lion doesn't worry about the opinion of the sheep. Very serious there. At the bottom of the screen, I cut it out on the video, but it said Brock Purdy, last pick of the draft, which he's, I think passed. I enjoy the conversation, but this is not a conversation worth the player's time. Zero of his time. His job's to play this week. Our job is to have fun, predict, react, analyze, all that. There's two types of bullshit, or as football coaches, I prefer the way they say it, which is horseshit. Football coaches love horseshit for some reason. There's two types. Number one is the type that isn't worth our time. Even people on the internet should not waste their time with certain levels of horseshit. Then number two is the type that is worth us talking about, because it's not actually horseshit. But if you're the man in the arena, it's not worth your time. The stuff they talk about winning is not, they don't talk about narratives. They don't talk about hierarchies. They don't talk about QB tiers. They don't talk about legacy. That stuff week to week in a season, it's not worth their time. And the best part, I guess, for us is that all this Brock stuff is legit, because he's, a season and a half into his career for us, but not for him. And John and I were talking on the podcast on Thursday, and we were going through, it had nothing to do with Brock. And it just occurred to me that it had to do with Kyle Shanahan talking about where he likes drafting quarterbacks. And but he's going to have to draft a quarterback this year in a good way, because at this pace, and we're only a third of the way through the season, but barring injury, Sam Darnold is not going to get to capture Kyle Shanahan's heart this year, because there is no leash on Brock Purdy. I spent a lot of time in the preseason talking about his leash and about how much Kyle likes Sam Darnold. Once a week, somebody will send me a DM that says, "Are you still intrigued with Sam Darnold?" And the answer to that is yes, but in a very different context than I was when this season began. So I think what's really unique, what's actually surprising to me about the Brock conversation, is that the conversations about his leash, or the lack thereof, we're not really even having that talk, are not, let me start over. The conversations about him, not about his leash, but the conversations about him are not about why isn't it going well. But the question that Eisen asked is basically, how do you explain that it's going so well? I mean, that's what this question
Respond to those who say you're just a product of the system there, the coach, and the guys around you. And
how do you respond, Brock, to people who say that you're only getting A's on the test because you're at a really good school? What do you say to that, Brock? Right? It's like even in your college application, if they asked you, how do you overcome all these passing grades? And can we be sure it's not just the school? How do you answer
all you're
that?
doing is basically rolling the balls out and not making mistakes. How do you respond to that, Brock?
How do you respond?
oh man,
Brock.
I would just say,
I would just say, what the fuck? That's what that answer is. Now the part, that is interesting is what he says at the end.
and reach our goals, and then we'll see at the end of all this if that's true or not. So,
Of the system.
Yeah, we'll see at the end of all this if it's true or not. He's just trying to find a way to land that plane. And that is the point, is that we will see at the end. Brock is playing till the end. This is his team. This is, the dog is off the leash. One thing, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning of this conversation, which was, I spent a lot of time, and John and Greg Papa and a lot of other people. I did a video, I think, with Larry Krueger and John Dickinson, I remember, from Niners camp. I talked to Mayoko about it. And almost universally, people are like, yeah, I think there's probably more leash than you're given credit for, which is fine. They might have been right. I mean, right now they were right for sure. But I think I part of the thing I didn't see coming is how that he would play so well that it's not even a conversation about how much leash does he have, right? It's just it's his team. He's the quarterback. He is I mean, let's pull up some of the numbers here. Let's see. He's 12th in completion percentage, 12th in yards, second in average gain per throw, 8th in touchdowns with 10, 5th in the league in touchdown percentage. 6% of his throws are touchdowns. First in the league, tied for first with interceptions. Second in the league in interception percentage, 0.2% of his throws are interception percentage. Third in the league in average pass length per completion, and second in the NFL in quarterback rating. So that's a guy for whom it's going very well. And, I think a lot of what I thought 6 games ago, we're 6 games in, it's, about of a third of the way through the season, was this thing going to turn back into, was it Cinderella? It's her like cart that turned, no, she doesn't turn back into her clothes, go bad. And then the cart, whatever, turns back into a pumpkin. That was kind of how I think I thought of it for sure. Like, is he going to prove that this is real? And I go back, I remember Juszczyk coming on the show and saying, I asked him, or maybe John asked, no, whatever. What are defenses going to do? And he was like, well, they already did it. They blitzed his doors off and he was fine. And then we saw Wink Martindale do it the other day. Not the other day, but we saw Wink Martindale do it on Thursday Night Football, and he was fine. And this week, the Vikings have had a pretty subpar to bad defense for several years now. It's improved this year. Brian Flores, good defensive coordinator. Brock's going to get more shots. We just saw the Browns, the Ravens, Mike McDaniel. They have, by some metrics, the number 2 defense in the NFL. John brought them up yesterday. The Niners will play them later in the year. And this week, we'll see. I mean, Minnesota tries to blitz them a lot. I don't know. I think he can handle that. So it has been not that you worry about him turning back or whatever. The analogy doesn't quite work, back into a pumpkin. I think it's something else. I think it's how much can he keep getting better? Listen to what Scott Pioli said yesterday he was on with Papa and Lund, Greg Papa, John Lund on KNBR radio, and take a listen to what Scott Pioli said.
Me as much of
over here.
Kyle reminds me as much of Bill Belichick as anybody that I've ever worked with and spent time around because of his attention to detail. And just like Bill can make people crazy sometimes because he's over the top about detail, so is Kyle.
What's different about Kyle and Bill is that Kyle coaches offense primarily and Bill coaches defense. And what have we seen since Tom Brady left the Patriots? The Patriots have struggled to compete anywhere near the level that they used to compete. The difference, though, is that, Bill has from time to time had a less than stellar offensive coordinator. It's gone so poorly that some are considering whether or not Bill's just trying to tank for a good quarterback. Kyle has always in his short time, less than a decade as head coach, but he's had 3 different defensive coordinators, and it's turned out that they're all really good. DeMeco Ryans was excellent. Robert Saleh was excellent. They both became head coaches. Steve Wilkes, I think, will prove over time to be excellent. I think to some degree, maybe he's already proving it. And so Kyle has control of the offense. So when you talk about the details, which is really the point of what Scott Pioli said, I think it illustrates how complicated things, how much pressure there is, how much is required of his quarterbacks. And so when you have a lot of details, it goes to reason. The conversation started with it was about Matt Ryan getting better. And it's true. You go back and look, Matt Ryan got better in year 2 under Kyle. That there probably is still a lot of stuff that Brock Purdy can still add, can still improve on, can still learn, can get, more proficient at with Kyle's offense. And that we shouldn't be sitting around wondering when he's going to revert, but it's actually you're watching a guy evolve and grow because he has the capacity for it. On Thursday's podcast, we talked about Kevin O'Connell, and what did Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings coach, say about Brock? You can really see how good he is at anticipating throws and processing the field. And if you go back to the first part of what Eisen said,
respond to those who say you're just a product of the system there, the coach and the guys around
roll out the balls
out and not making balls out and not making is basically rolling the balls out and not making mistakes.
I mean, the simplest way to think about Brock is we all turn on the TV Saturday and watch college football. And then we turn on the TV Sunday and we watch the NFL. And then Monday night we watch the NFL. And then Thursday we do it again. And actually, right now there's college football games on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We're in this stretch. If you follow college football people on Twitter, they've been talking for like a week and a half that we're in the stretch of like whatever it is, 43 straight days with no football-less days. The point is, if you turn on any football, more often than not, you're watching quarterbacks struggle. I mean, that is most of football watching life, is watching one, maybe two in the same game quarterbacks. The odds are you're going to watch a football game and one of the two quarterbacks doesn't look good. Maybe both of them don't look good. If you watch college football, the odds that you are watching a future NFL starting quarterback are so low, right? So when a guy performs as consistently as Purdy has, the possibility that he's just rolling out the ball is extremely low because most guys can't just do that. Now, his team is different. His coach is different, but we're not trying to project Brock. What would Brock be like on the Browns? What would Brock be like on the Giants? Because he's on this team, right? So when you are a 4.5 GPA high school kid with a bunch of extracurriculars, for the most part, people are like, that's what you are. Not, I don't know. You had good teachers. I don't know. You went to a private school. A lot of support there. Are you sure you're not a 3.8 student? No, they go open arms, come on into our college. And maybe you'll then get an upper hand and you'll be able to develop more. I think you see it all the time. That's what Brady was as a young player, Russell Wilson as a young player. They're in great situations. They take advantage of situations. Has Brock been given a gift by being drafted by the 49ers? Yes, but look at all the quarterback turnover the Niners have had. They've also been given a gift because they found somebody that can do what they want. So Evil Ducks. Let's get to some comments here on the stream. Eisen loves Brock. I think this was him just giving Brock a chance to defend himself. He's usually referred to as Rich's fourth son. Yeah, look, I didn't get the impression that Rich was attacking him. I find humor in how serious the whole thing is. But it's true. I think some people who do interviews don't quite understand that sometimes people want to be asked what you think is the uncomfortable or hard question, right? Which is what Rich does here. He doesn't beat around the bush. He just asks the question. People want to be asked the question because they want to respond to the question. So that comment from Evil Ducks is correct. Here's a comment from Astro that says, Eisen's a big-time Kyle simp. Okay. Yeah, he loves Kyle. Kyle gave one of my favorite interviews that he's done. He's done a lot of really good ones on Kawakami's show. Well, he did a very good one on Aizen's show several years ago, in which he explained why he's difficult for his wife. I thought it was a really good interview. I won't summarize it here, but it was. We've played the clip before. I just think it's very insightful. But yeah, it's not about Rich. I think you go back to the Pioli quote. Kyle Shanahan is going to go down as one of the best coaches of his era. Period. It's going to happen. The only question is, does he have a Super Bowl to elevate him? I think if he can win a Super Bowl, and maybe it's this year, right? But if he can win a Super Bowl, if you're somebody that thinks Kyle gets overrated or Kyle Shanahan gets defended too much or any of that stuff, you're going to hate what it becomes. Because when you look at the guys who just win one, Tomlin, Sean Payton, they become, I won't say bulletproof, but the gap between 0 and 1 is much bigger than the gap between like 1 and 3. You know, if you win 3, obviously you're a major legend. But once you get at least just the 1, there's really no cap the old Like there's no ceiling, the old no cap, not what no cap means now. There's really no ceiling to what people can say about you in a positive way. And for me, like I support it when it comes to Shanahan, because as I said, I think he's going to go down as one of the great coaches of the era. Maybe he'll, yeah. I mean, can he win 1? Can he win 2? Can he win 3? I mean, you look at this team, go back to 2019 with his roster. I mean, we go through it year by year, but you could argue in the 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, how many of those years did the Niners have? Did they put together the best roster in the league? Different than having, the quarterback that can get you over the top. But Russell on the stream says, if this squad doesn't win a Super Bowl, the Niners will never win again. LOL. Look at this roster. Well, there's also that, right? The pressure that comes with putting together such a good team and not winning a championship. And it only mounts. And it's funny for Kyle, right? He's in the rare category of a coordinator that became a head coach. And the Super Bowl that he lost as a coordinator is part of his story. I hadn't thought about that, but I'm not sure what that list is like. Coaches who, guys who became head coaches and their coordinator year that helped launch them to getting the head coaching job is kind of, I'm not going to say held against him. It's just part of the story, part of what he's trying to overcome. If he wins a championship, that will be part of the story, is that he erased the Patriots Super Bowl loss. Comment from Dan on the stream: keys to success: keep McCaffrey, Debo, and Trent Williams out. Let Mason get the call. Lean on Ayuk, Bell, and Jennings. Give the big boys time to heal sufficiently. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Leaning on Mason and Bell sounds great in theory. Unproven. Extremely unproven, actually, at this point. So that's not happening. I at this moment on, as we head into the weekend, I think all 3 are going to play. That's the way it's trending. And I'm okay with that. Took Andy Reid a long time to get over the hump. Yes, it did. And I think I've mentioned this before, but it's one of my favorite things to bring up. That there's always this misconception with Andy Reid. And the misconception with Andy Reid is that he got fired in Philly because he never won it. Like, the standard was so high, you got to win a championship. And we're tired of not winning championships. But when you go back, the last 2 years he was in Philadelphia, he won a combined 12 games. They went 8-8 in 11. And I remember when I brought that up to John several years ago, he's like, go back and look at the schedule. Not several years ago, a few months ago. He goes, go back and look at the schedule. They went 8-8, but that year he worked for the team. Like, it really started. They won 4 games to finish the season. So they actually were 4-8. So that was a bad year. They head into the off season in 11. They come out in 12. They go 4-12 that year. And then Andy Reid is out. Andy Reid wasn't out because he never won. And what happened? It turned out to be, the best thing for him, because he goes to Kansas City and he gets Patrick Mahomes. That was a rare situation where it really worked out for everybody. But May on the stream says Kyle will never win a Super Bowl. He cracks under pressure. I think Brock will win it with another team. To me, I've not seen Kyle Shanahan. I don't think he cracks under pressure. I think he's pretty good in crunch time situations. And we've got to see him play in a lot of those situations. Thomas on the stream: I think most of the Shanahan hate comes because he hasn't won and choked in catastrophic fashion. When he gets to the ring, they'll all stand in line to gobble him up. All right. Dan on the stream asks, speaking of Belichick, is Kraft really going to stick with him and vice versa? Maybe Bill to the Bears? It feels like it's near the end. And the Mac Jones situation, if you're the Krafts, the offensive coordinator and the quarterback situation have been so off-putting. And then you also think back to whatever conversations you had with him about keeping Tom or getting rid of Tom. And maybe at the end of the day, you would have kept Tom, but Tom was like, screw this. I mean, that part did not wear well if you are the owner. And remember, the story was like Brady goes over to Robert Kraft's house to tell him I'm leaving, and they're in tears, and Kraft doesn't want him to go. Like that whole thing, they had a very close relationship. But you ride with the coach over the quarterback, which is fine. But now it looks like there is no salvation in sight unless the plan, when you watch them, it doesn't feel like they're trying to lose. But unless the plan is, let's be bad and this is going to be a good quarterback draft and let's go get one of these guys and keep it rolling. But it feels like we're about at the end of the Belichick Patriots run. I hope it's not the case, but I also, what I really hope is that it's not, that if the Patriots Belichick run is over, that Belichick still goes somewhere else. I don't want to see Bill Belichick walk away. And so, yeah, Bill to the Bears. Can the Bears pay him? Can the Bears pay him? Bill to Dallas? Doesn't feel like he'd have the control that he wants, but they could pay him. Would Bill go to the Giants? That would be sweet. Dable screaming at people. Marco, it would be nice for Bill to have an era like Popovich will now with Wemby. I want to see him happy for the last couple of years. I mean, you talk about just falling into extending your career. Yeah, he needs that with a quarterback, but there's no lottery. But there's there's good quarterbacks. You don't have to get just the first quarterback. Tyra, I did not get that right. Brock is perfect for this team. And Kyle, because he's never too low or too high. He lives in the present. The system QB is a question he doesn't care about because he plays his role as the point guard. I mean, yeah, look, you win a championship, you win a bunch of games. Here's how it ends for the quarterback. You get paid. You win a championship, you win a bunch of games. Here's how it ends for the quarterback. You become a franchise quarterback. You become a legend. It's really a very simple formula. They talk about you as a system quarterback in year 1. By year 6, you're just a winner. By year 3, by year 5, you're just a baller. So when Brock says to Eisen, we'll just see in the end. Yeah. I mean, if the end is a long way away, then all it means is that he was really good. And once you win a lot of games, there's not a lot of discussion about are you a product of the system. The discussion becomes like, are you one of the best quarterbacks? So Nolan, never forget Brock was a winner in high school, a winner in college. You can't replace reps under the lights, which he talked about that. Was it with Eisen? Maybe it was with Rich. Somebody asked him this week, how much of the experience of all, playing 4 years of college help you? And he said all those reps help a lot, seeing all these defenses, all that kind of thing. The one thing I will say, the counterpoint being, if we went up and down an NFL roster, most of these guys are big-time winners in high school, and most of these guys are winners in college. It's just the elite of the elite. They're the 1%ers, so sometimes I think we kind of they're all so successful, right? When you make it that far, that we can kind of we can say, you didn't win. Boy, a guy didn't win a lot in college. He really learned how to deal with adversity. You can kind of fit whatever narrative to whatever story you want. When the fact is, at that level of success, there's just no blueprint. There's no, this person followed this path and that led to this. And, drafting is such a crapshoot and everybody tries. And to come up with like the formula. Parcells had a formula of like, certain amount of pass attempts, certain amount of starts, certain amount of all this stuff. And he would only draft quarterbacks that fit that formula. But no one's figured it out yet. And I think the real answer is because there's no one formula. There's no one path. The common denominator is always talent and hard work, but there's a lot of guys with talent that work hard. So, I mean, it's true. And for Brock, it helped form him, I'm sure, but I don't know. I mean, it sounds good and it might be true, but I don't know. Russell, Bosa's sack count kind of annoyingly low too. I think this will be a big week. Nick Bosa said yesterday, yes, Cousins gets the ball out quickly, but acknowledged, and this is where no Justin Jefferson really helps the 49ers pass rush. He said something along the lines of, if the back end locks it down, then that's where we up front are going to get our sacks. So I think this, I think Bosa's got a sack, maybe 2 of them this Monday night against Cousins. When I watch Nick, I don't feel like he's not being effective. You pay a guy, you'd love to see him have 7 sacks, but I think, and somebody asked me this a few weeks ago, who is not around the Niners every day, but was coming in to cover the team, and they said, why isn't Bosa playing well? And I said, I don't think he's not. I think he is playing well. I feel like he's playing well. I feel like when you watch, you feel him. He creates a lot of pressure. Let's just see. I mean, for whatever it's worth to everybody, pass rush grades, I think he's 1 or 2. I got to get let's get a little win percentage here from PFF if this thing will load. Win percentage minimum. This is going to take me just a second. Let's go. Take out the DBs and the linebackers. Win percentage. Myles Garrett 1, 29.8%. Rashawn Gary 2, many fewer snaps. I could minimize. Let's filter. Here we go. So we filter for 50% of 250 snaps on PFF. And Nick Bosa is 2nd in the league in win percentage. Myles Garrett's number 1. Trey Hendrickson is 2. DeMarcus Lawrence 3. DeMarcus Lawrence 4. Micah Parsons 5. Jalen Carter 6. Chase Young 7. I mean, the guys that you think will be there are there. Aaron Donald 8 in win percentage. Max Crosby 9. Oh, Will Anderson 10. Aiden Hutchinson 11. Chris Jones 12. I love this list. Javon Hargrave 13. How about Chase Young being 7, by the way? So I think Nick's been good. I think Nick's been good. On the defense, Wilkes' personality seems muted and stoic, and the defense seems to be mirroring that compared to Ryan and Salah's personality seems to reflect the lack of intensity on the field now. I disagree. I don't feel that. I mean, Warner, these guys are running around all the time. Greenlaw, Warner, I think you lose Greenlaw, it has a major effect on you. I think Hargrave has brought it. Like, you just see him everywhere. And I don't think he lacks for intensity. Hufanga. I mean, the one thing you'd say is they don't really have like a Richard Sherman personality at corner. But, Mooney Ward does the thing where he breaks up a pass, whatever. I don't see a team that lacks intensity on defense. Ten interceptions leads the NFL this year. And, that could be a product of when Nick Bosa doesn't get to the quarterback, but affects the play, when the defensive line doesn't get there, but affects the play. So I think they've been good. I think they've been really good. They put it this way. They have been good enough. They're a top, depending on the metrics, top 5 defense. So they're fine. They are. They're good. They're fine. Bosa's fine. Bosa ain't the problem. But, on this turf this week, getting Dre Greenlaw back, that'd be a big help for them. All right. That's that for this. That's that for this. Thanks for hanging. If you are watching on YouTube, like most of you are, this may go on the podcast. That's why I say that. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the Tito's helmet over my shoulder. They're a sponsor. Tito's Handmade Vodka, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. But you're a sponsor too. And you're a sponsor when you hit that like button. We appreciate that. When you subscribe to the channel. How it works is when you hit the like button, when you subscribe to the channel, YouTube and the algorithm then starts suggesting the video to more people. They go, somebody like this thing. Maybe you'll like this thing, right? And so when you like it, you help push that sucker to the top. So we appreciate when you do that. If you're listening to the podcast, that's great. If you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a review. 5 stars. We appreciate it. So thank you very much on that. And we'll talk soon. Maybe Sunday night. Definitely Monday. Niners Vikings on Monday. Appreciate you guys hanging out. And adios. Later.